Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our LinkedIn Live Future of Contingent Workforce EU edition. I'm excited to have our conversation today. Today, we're going to have some of the best industry leaders in contingent workforce Europe who are going to talk about the state of CW. We've been doing the Contingent Workforce series for almost 6 years now, and we make our predictions in January before we do our mid-year check-in in July. In January, predictions center on how in this January, the predictions centered on how the impact of AI might be overstated, more due diligence around compliance, and then continued growth in SOWs. Since there's a bit of confusion around AI right now, we're going to do something a little different and deep dive in the topic today. So I'm going to introduce our guests, and then we'll get started. So we have Manfred Vogels, VP of EMEA Markets Beeline. Welcome. Renelle Asroy, I think she should be doing now. Growth Advisor, EMEA, Brightfield. Welcome, Renelle.
Hello.
Inês Noble, Global Head of Product Strategy and Solution Design for Tapfin. Jacqueline Whyatt, SVP, Regional Head of EMEA and APAC Pontoon Solutions. Jamie Eaton, SVP, Director of UK and Ireland, Magnit Global. And then Kat Hollywell, Senior Partner, Quantum Workforce Advisories International. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
Great to see you all. So I think we should probably start off with what's on the forefront of everyone's mind, and given that your expertise in this area, I'd love to know, who do you predict would win the World Cup this year?
I think it's easier to predict what's coming up in Workforce Solutions than who's going to win the World Cup.
I agree.
I would never say I have expertise in football. Same.
Well, I've got to go. I'm a bit in that camp too, and I was doing some counsel before this call that actually some people have been known to select the team based on the colours of the jersey, but I can't admit that.
I do that with Royal Ascot, to be fair.
I like that.
I'll have a prediction for you, and sorry for all of my UK colleagues, but I think it's going to be Spain.
I think Spain could be the underdog.
Yeah.
See, I was going to say, I know nothing about football, but I have to fly the British flag right now based on what's happening this evening. And I think everyone around me would kill me if I didn't say England. So that's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Good decision.
Thanks.
I'm with you, Kat. As an Englishman, I have to say England, but Manfred, Spain were very good last night. They're going to take some beating. So yeah. I would sooner spend time predicting contingent workforce strategy.
Right.
I agree. Spain is a good shot, but I'm going to go with the underdog, which is UK, and I think that's what's going to happen at the end. We'll have surprises, and the betting markets will make money that way.
Win for the first time in 60 years to bring it home, for sure.
Okay, so now back to the CW. For the panelists that joined us in January, what predictions do you think we got right in 2026, and where do you think we kind of missed the mark? Manfred, do you want to start?
Sure. I actually looked it up, what I predicted, and it's funny to see 6 months in. I had two predictions, one very provocative and one more on the safe side. Let's start with the last one. My prediction in January was that we will see a growth of contingent labor in all its shapes and forms in Europe. Market has been picking up. I would say I still uphold that prediction for the remainder of the year. I had hoped that, or the outlook in January was it would go a little bit quicker than it actually does. But if I look at various market indexes, but also importantly what our clients are doing, because we obviously track a lot of spend, I'm still seeing a growth. It's not much. It's around 1.5% year over year, but it is growing. I had hoped for a little bit more. The other prediction that I did was a bit more provocative, where I said, well, 95% of all of the AI cases that our clients having used, there is no return on investment. It was provocative. I will change that a little bit to, I would say 78.5%. But I'm still questioning, Obviously, we're doing a lot. Obviously, it goes in all kinds of directions, but that will be a topic for today's discussion as well. But I'm still questioning, what's the return on investment? So.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that this year we're going from, oh, go ahead, Jackie.
No, I was going to just say, I think probably, Manfred, picking up on what you've spoken about, I think, a lot of my predictions were speaking to the growth of skills-based hiring and services procurement, but also, I think I referred to back in January, AI governance. I feel like the world has leapfrogged at lightning speed since then. Of course, we're seeing the growth of skills-based hiring and services procurement, but the AI agentic shift, I think, has come at lightning pace. And I think that certainly, yes, it was prediction. Did I predict the pace? No. And I think we're happy to see that that's going to pick up today, which I think is obviously why today's topic is quite interesting for everyone too.
Absolutely. And Inês?
I think I talked about the conversation shifting towards more non-traditional MSP models and services and offerings around workforce orchestration. I think those conversations are definitely here to stay. Clients, like Jackie said, are looking more not just about getting bums on seats, but what skills they need and what outcomes they're trying to drive. Hence, obviously, we're seeing that growth in SOW as well as freelancers. So I was rather conservative and bold in the new kind of models of MSP, but I think that shift is happening and I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, and I also think you talked about how clients are going to be looking for MSPs to be more of an orchestrator across different channels, not just the traditional ones. I think that's spot on. Jamie?
Yeah, sure. I spoke about two areas. So to Manfred's point about contingent labor rises in Europe, I focus more on countries like Poland and Spain. And actually, I think I was right with those. There is a almost like a two-speed Europe at this moment in time in terms of growth. So I'm in agreement with Manfred in terms of the overall, but there are pockets of higher growth and pockets where it's more stable, let's say. So I was right on those countries and partially right on the other side of it. The other bit was I talked a lot about the rise in focus on SOW and services procurement. We've known that spend has existed for a long time. It's definitely been true in this first 6 months of 26 that there's a major area of focus for buyers. They are definitely making requests. Certainly, we feel it in Magnit to analyze large volumes of SOW spend and also contracts to look at both whether they are valid or whether even the contracts themselves, how they're curated, whether they're fit for purpose. So yeah, major focus there.
Definitely. And we're going to go to Renelle and Kat next to start off the predictions for the second half of the mid-year point. What are you guys seeing in trends? Kat, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think looking back at what Jackie and Inês said, I think that AI and agentic is not going anywhere. And I think the pace seems to be getting quicker every day with, the functionality increases and the kind of more natural adoption. I think there's going to be a huge change management focus around making sure that people are using AI in the right way and again tied back to the ROI piece, right? So how do we make sure that people are using AI in a way that makes them more productive rather than is a distraction? And then I think the orchestration piece is definitely not going anywhere either. I think that is absolutely a key topic that is coming up in a lot of conversations, and it's spanning more than just the contingent workforce. So being able to look at the work that needs to happen and what's the best way for that work to get completed, including AI, right? So having these agentic workers, all of that kind of stuff. I think a few years ago the concept was theoretical. And now it's becoming really practical for organizations where they really want to understand, okay, well, how do I do that? How do I take advantage of that? So if I was to look at the next 6 months, I think that's probably going to take up the predominant conversations around the contingent workforce space.
Absolutely. Renelle?
Surprisingly, I agree with my colleagues, so nothing new. So I would agree, AI, I came out of the industry for a year, been back in it for 6 months. The conversation that has changed in that time alone has been amazing. So I think we will continue to see that through the rest of this year. And actually, what we're seeing is not just how it's going to be used, we're seeing tangible examples. And those are getting bigger and better every single day. So I think that's really, really interesting. And I think Jamie had mentioned it, and it's services procurement. Contingent has been under well control for a little while. People are now looking towards services procurement. They are looking for more audits, more understanding, what should they be doing with that? And they're ready. I think we've been having conversations about services procurement for some time, but I don't think everyone has been ready, and they're ready now. And so there definitely are conversations about trying to unpick and understand what do they have to then move forward with, then what should they do? So I think that's what we're seeing. And then also, I think we've had this for a little while, but it's about insights. There is more from our clients that are looking generally for insights, whether it's about what's happening within the market, what's happening outside of the bubble as a client. And they're looking for that in lots of different ways. Even earlier this year, at CWS, we had more new attendees, I think, than we've had before. So that tells us something. That tells us that they want to know more, they want to understand more. They might not know what they need or want, but they're out there and they're looking for information.
Absolutely. Anyone else want to add to that? Predictions for the second half?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I mean, just on Europe itself, the second half for me isn't necessarily about growth rate when it comes back to the points that just been raised. It is around dependency and maturity. So we know that 78% of enterprises are planning to increase their usage of contingent labor, but it does tie into that point of saying with AI, let's say, which is another key area of growth that we'd predict, and especially around the orchestration of a total talent approach. We are seeing a lot more demand from clients to use large language and conversational AI to help managers determine the right route to talent. And that is tied in not only to decision making, but it's also a stronger desire to bring together disparate systems to create a much better experience for those managers. And that's helping decision making, but it's not only just agentic AI, it's then using strong data and insights to help make better decisions and human expertise to reinforce that as well.
Absolutely. Anyone else want to add to that?
I would just add, I think on that agentic piece, I think, right now we're still, I think as an industry determining, what is the role of agents versus humans. But I think certainly for organizations, there's an appetite for an expectation that as industry leaders that we provide market insights, data, analytics in a package that gives an agentic solution that will then not just help orchestrate the entire workforce piece, but I think then help work on that predictability, that data analytical element. But I think as an industry now, we've got that the next 6 months, that we'll see a real shift to agentic solutions. And I think then making sure that we also address the compliance, the ethics, what role do humans play, and also how do we reskill our human beings? What role do we play? I think, AI is fantastic, and I think it can certainly achieve all things we're wanting to achieve, but I think what it can't do is have the context. So I think we've got to be very forensic around what does an agentic solution look like? Where do agents have a future in the future, but where do humans have that future? I think, it's not too far away. We'll see perhaps humans managing a team of agents as opposed to other humans. And so I think we all need to reskill, and I think look at how do we not just add value, but also how do we all change and morph into that new way of working. So I think it's a really exciting time we're going to see in the next 6, 12, 18 months as this evolves.
Yeah, you guys go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think that's where we're going to see, I completely agree with Jamie and everybody that's kind of made their predictions for the second half of this year. But to Jackie's point, it's around how we're going to work with AI to Kat's point around the orchestration and the insights, I think we're going to see more support in the kind of advisory component, in the strategy side of things. How can they understand what skills they actually have today, aligned to their job descriptions? How are they starting to really understand what can be automated versus what needs to be human? And then looking at what is that right workforce mix. And that's kind of that upfront component to really kind of starting to understand what the right strategy should be for that kind of build, buy, borrow or bot component, and really kind of start looking at what is the right strategy to put in place, instead of taking a strategy that's 12 months old that might not include those components and trying to make it fit for the future. I think that's going to be the highlight of conversations over the next 6 to 12 months, in my opinion.
I agree. And I was going to say, I think part of what you guys are all talking about with the orchestration and AI, and we also talked about a little bit of how there's a top of funnel where you decide whether something goes into CW, goes into SOW, goes into service procurement. Given that a lot of companies burn through a lot of their budgets and token maxing in the first half of the year, I see them sort of leaning on technologies like OpenRouter to figure out which LLM we should use to get the most efficient and cheapest results. And so I think they're probably going to at some point ask the MSPs to say, okay, how do we look at whether this is more efficient or cheaper to use a human versus an AI agent in a task, right? Because some tasks might actually be more efficient and productive just having a human do it and not route it. So I think they might ask you to start doing those kind of things as well. What are your thoughts around that?
I completely agree. And I think actually building on what Inês was just saying, I think there's going to be more actually looking at the overall operating model that needs to happen, right? Because I think what's happening right now is agentic and AI and new capabilities that have never existed before are trying to slot into previous and historic models, right? And that is not just the models in terms of how work is kind of structured within teams, but also the infrastructure around that. So, you mentioned there, Ash, around budgets and things like that. The way that businesses have operated with, headcount approvals, budgets, and then, money being filtered into different type of worker categories. My prediction, and probably not for the next 6 months, I think I'm kind of going a bit further down the future, but my prediction is all of that will start to fundamentally shift because it will need to. The structures that are in place today within and in terms of how most organizations are set up and operate, I don't think are future ready, especially when you look at the pace of change that AI is bringing to how we do things.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm curious to see, and it might not be a prediction for the next 6 months, but challenge ourselves a little bit, all of us in the room, which is to which extent is the AI explosion or journey or uncontrollable growth going to be slowed down by regulations, right? I do see more and more regulators stepping into this area, whether it's from our clients ourselves or governments, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm wondering, and again, I don't have a clear picture of which direction it goes, but what we are seeing from a technology perspective, there is obviously a lot of interest in AI functionality and AI features and all that, you might expect from a technology provider as we are can bring to the table, and we have a lot to offer. But when it comes down to the next step, incorporate that in your solution and is used by clients, it's always like, okay, but now you have to talk to our AI board. Now you have to go through very detailed InfoSec questionnaires. You have to work with all kinds of other regulatory bodies that you never heard of that suddenly come into play. And it has an effect, or it starts to get an effect on the adoption. It starts to get an effect on, okay, but what AI are you using? Oh, you're using cloud. Well, we're not allowed to use cloud, right? You need to use Copilot. Oh, we're not allowed to use Copilot. We're Chat GPT and name a few others, Gemini or what have you. So I'm asking myself the question, what is that impact going to look like? And is that going to slow down the actual AI journey that we're all embarked on? Is it going to accelerate the AI journey? I don't have a clear picture yet, but I'm leaning more towards it will slow down because, people now start to see the danger of it as well, right? And we had the internal discussions as well, which platform can I use? How do I need to use it? Is it secure? Can I share certain data or not, et cetera, et cetera. And I know a lot of our clients having that discussion as well.
I'm not.
It's a really good point. And I think also just the other element is the ethics compliance. I think, we were all at CWS a few months ago in London, and I think that was a big topic on everyone's lips. But I think the one thing we haven't as an industry looked at too is that organizational readiness and that transformation, that change. So you raised some really good points. And I think the ethics, the compliance, and also the any kind of unconscious bias, for example, there's still a lot we don't know. We're working it out. And I think what is mind-blowing with this whole shift is that what we solve for today changes by tomorrow morning. So I know certainly we've got some phenomenal tech gurus in our teams, I call them like in our labs, cooking up awesome solutions at Pontoon. But quite often they built something and then it's changed 24 hours later. So it's moving at lightning pace. But I think the fundamental point there, which you raised, Manfred, I think I really echo, is that organizational readiness. And those, not just the practical elements of systems, processes, etc. It's also the execution of that. So I think whilst we're on one hand we're still talking about strategy and that evolution, I think sometimes we're also not going into enough of that detail without being a killjoy around the how and what's actually realistic. So that's going to be interesting to walk through the next 6 months too.
And I think it's a bit of a balancing act. I think that clients do want to move forward. They do want AI solutions. They are looking for that from us all. I think it's the role that we're playing also is bringing those things into place, but also helping with their understanding. And you're right, these governance boards are popping up every single time, more and more information, slightly different questions every single time. And so there is still not education, but support that's needed. Clients want to go on this journey, and sometimes their own organizations, it's kind of making them stuck in regards to be able to move forward. So I'm not sure I think it will slow down. I think it will take longer. And I think that's what we're seeing, is the overall process will take longer because everyone says, yes, it's a great idea, but how do we do that? And so it's about putting the right guardrails around everything to make sure they're safe, we're safe, everything is doing what it should be doing. So I think it's just going to be a longer process as we make everyone as comfortable as possible with, what the changing market looks like.
I think, Ronelle, you make a really good point. And I, so as you were talking there, you said, organizations really want to do this, and, this is a great idea. I think one of the key things that people do need to start to think about is what is the problem that people are trying to solve by introducing AI? Because using AI, cool, like it's the thing to do, but what is it that we're trying to do? And I think that's where the ROI and the productivity kind of gains and conversations really come from. And I think over and above that, as you're thinking through AI, what is it that you want it to do? What is the problem that you're trying to solve? It's about actually what's the best way to do that. Because I think you mentioned the technologies change from one day to the next. And I think, the longer term strategic investments in any AI platform, the decisions that you make are probably very different today than they would be 6 months ago. So what are they going to be in 6 months' time? And so I think all of those elements also slow things down, right? Because people want to make sure that they're doing things in the right way.
I think the compliance piece you guys are talking about, it really hits home, because I think last year, if you look at 2025, we gave everyone a toy and then everyone started using it. And then if you didn't give them the toy, they'd start using their personal accounts to make the toy work, right? Or the AI agents. And then as a result, like when I get onboarded as a vendor, you guys give me like a list of here's the things that consultants can do and they cannot do. Like don't log in outside your system, use our corporate laptop, things like that. No one's put in the documents like don't use your personal ChatGPT, right? And so we're dumping all this data from our clients into the open source world, right? Or out into the public chat model. And so you're inadvertently dumping corporate data into into the public environment, and no one's really doing anything about controlling that. So I think you are going to see compliance go front and center, and so it may slow down or just lengthen the process, because I think those things that we didn't think about growing so fast are happening, and we're exposing ourselves. Jamie, what are your thoughts?
Well, we are, as I said, we are starting to get into these type of conversations with our clients, right? So our clients start to investigate, okay, what AI do you have in use yourself, and how is it guarded, right? To make sure that, you know, if we prepare, I don't know, presentations, quarterly reviews, et cetera, well, how did you actually get to these presentations, right? Is that somebody using his private chat GPT, or is that, you know, guarded by Beeline, et cetera, et cetera? So we actually had an internal education session around that in, okay, here are the do's and here are the don'ts, right? So coming back to my earlier comment, this is where I now see a large influx of having those discussions with our clients, because everyone starts to realize, hold on a minute, there is a flip side to this toy that everyone has been given. Aside from, and this is another interesting aspect, the cost of all of this, right? I was surprised when somebody told me, well, in a good way, but Manfred, you toyed around with our company AI for an hour, right? I hope you got the results, because the bill was X, Y, Z. And I was like, okay, I didn't realize it, right? Because it's readily available. So I'm like, okay, you know, I'm going to educate myself, and let's see if I can do what other colleagues can do as well. And that's where, from our perspective, we're looking to bring that part of management into our technology as well, because it's not only managing the human beings, but it's also managing all of these agentic agents, et cetera, to make sure that somebody has some control over that, because otherwise, yeah, ultimately the risk is your cost will be going up instead of down. But I cut off Jamie, so sorry for that.
That's fine, Manfred. I was going to say, to that point, there is a training aspect to it in terms of AI. And Manfred, I'm not saying you need training, by the way. I'm saying that the
send me the link, Jamie. Send me the link. That's fine.
What I'm saying is that the scripts and the prompts around AI usage is a real area of focus. Certainly in Magnit, I'm sure it is in everybody else's business. But so you've got a few sides to kind of sum up, Ash. I think you've got the AI governance, which genuinely is a service line. You know, clients are wanting to ensure those frameworks are in place, the compliance, etc., is there to support it. There's then the efficiency of it, to Manfred's point. Like, AI costs money. But utilizing it in a far more and ever efficient way helps to keep those costs minimal. And I think a few people in this, especially in Ronell, I think have touched on the advisory element. And for me, the AI, when we look at a workforce solution model, it's far more important now. Our clients are demanding that AI is not only just giving faster visibility of spend, let's say, but it's giving data-driven insights and intelligence and actions that can be taken to help drive improvements. And so that's a really crucial part of certainly where our clients are demanding more from us.
I love that you said actions, because I think the dashboards have been something everyone looks at, but then they don't know what to do with the dashboard, right? And so now you're actually saying, here's the information, here's what I suggest you do with it, right? And see if they actually go through with it. Speaking of that, we've seen with the birth of AI that, at least what I'm hearing, is that entry-level jobs, you're seeing less entry-level jobs, and you're seeing more experience roles being brought in, roles being sought after. Are you guys seeing that from the MSP's perspective? And then if you are, how do you, for the entry-level people, are the clients asking you to make them AI ready or native? What are you seeing in that area?
I'll jump in there. I think we're seeing a big shift, I think, to certainly, I would say, redefining what entry-level roles look like. So I think we're seeing more and more that organizations are looking for talent that can deliver a complex transformation programs. So some of those traditional entry-level administrative roles, I think, are perhaps being AI enabled. But I think what we're seeing now is that shift in the entry-level worker to be someone who's quite transformational or can drive transformation, and I think understand what that new way of working looks like. So I think it's looking for early career talent that will provide long-term workforce sustainability, but also then, making more of an evolutionary shift than an absolute shift. So I think it's just that entry role is there, it's just being redefined in a new sense.
Interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I think, from what you're saying, Jackie, that future talent pipelining, with, needing those experienced transformational skills right now, what do the skills of the future look like too? Because what we need today isn't what we need tomorrow. So it goes back to that complete kind of org advisory kind of design in truly understanding, because everything is moving so fast. I think Jackie said 3-4 hours later, her labs and everything she's creating is changing so quickly. I would say the same for the skills within our clients, right? What they were looking at from a skills perspective 6 months ago has already shifted. That's going to continue to be the trend that we see. So that talent pipelining is even more important. And I think that's where that data visibility and insights that Ronelle was mentioning is so important, and that continuous loop back up to the strategy so that you can truly understand what is it that I'm going to need in 2, 4, 6 months time.
Absolutely.
I think you go ahead.
No, okay, thanks, Kat. I was going to say that look, there are less entry-level roles. We're seeing that, and we are seeing at Magnit more in the way of, shall we say, requests for experienced hires. So to break that down a little bit, the entry-level roles, what I would say, if there are people here starting out their career, there is a massive demand from clients for people at entry level with AI related skills. We are not at a point where AI is automating or enhancing every process. Like, there is massive scope for people to come in at an entry level role with AI skills and improve that work in an organization. So I think there is a debate about what is an AI role. For me, it impacts all roles. It's not going to go away. So there's that side from the entry level. On the experienced hire, we are definitely seeing more in the way of requests for people with the experience in a particular role. So that might be AI is being utilized to assess swathes of data and to output that results, but then it needs a human with expertise and experience to interpret that. So that could be in every market, but like in healthcare, where you've got like radiologists, for example, looking at scans, we can scan humans in a way we've never done before. So there's a lot more shift towards experience hire as well. And that's a favorable thing for our industry, because it's all on shifting sands to the point that's been raised. It's so quick in terms of how AI is being used and applied in businesses. It's a good thing for the contingent market.
For sure. And Kat?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think we can't solely focus on AI when it comes to the workforce shifts that we're seeing in Europe. I think the rise of the GCCs over the past few years has had a significant impact, and is something that we were all talking about 12 months ago, before AI became the sole topic. But I think when you layer those kind of pieces on top of each other, the work demand in Europe has shifted, and I think that has shifted from the levels of role, the types of role, the skills, to Inês's point, that people are looking for, but also the work that is being done by organizations is also shifting. because organizations are having to change their own strategies as it relates to AI. So what they're looking to do as a business is moving away as well. So the people often talk about the jobs of the future. I think there's jobs of the future, there's jobs of the now, there's jobs of yesterday, and there's jobs of tomorrow, because I think it's really, really varying, and there is a multitude of factors that's building into that, not AI only. And I think that just really exacerbates the shifts that we're seeing.
For sure. And I think every technology revolution creates more jobs, right? And this one's no different. If you look, the fact is that Manfred started off saying that the trend is up this year versus last year, right? And so if AI is supposed to replace everyone, it's not, because we're actually increasing the volumes of contingent labor. So I think that's something to remember, because I think there's a lot of fear mongering out there that's probably not needed, but it's a way, I guess, to raise money. What does a shift to agentic solutions and workforce solutions mean, and how is it being implemented at your clients?
I can jump in. So I think it's moving beyond the co-pilots, the assistants, the point solutions, and really kind of embedding it within the workflows and upstream before the decisions are made. So I think that's kind of where the agentic and workforce orchestration kind of meet, is to enable that faster, smoother process without the need of subject matter experts in that process. So it's removing that component of taking maybe 6 days to get from, oh, all of a sudden I have this project I need to complete, working all the way through your approval processes, emails backwards and forwards, etc., to a streamlined process of probably multiple agents with an orchestrator over the top that is really kind of taking all of the hard administrative burden kind of tasks and reducing those, what could be 5 days, I'm pulling a number out of thin air, to what could be maybe 25 minutes, because it's already got all of the insights, all of the knowledge, all of the policies from that client to make those informed decisions, instead of relying on humans to do so. There will still be humans in the loop in that component, but I'd say that's the convergence of AI, agentic solutions, and workforce orchestration, not necessarily the kind of process flow orchestration. It is that upstream, before a decision is made, orchestration component.
And are you seeing the error rates drop down as a result, because they're following a process that's more agentic based?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Are you seeing an error rate kind of drop down because we're following an agentic process?
Yes, because you're removing that human error, you're removing some of that lag. You still have a human in the loop from that governance perspective, but absolutely.
Okay.
But there is an interesting observation that I made, which again solidifies for me there needs to be a human in the loop, because we're having discussions now with 2 of our clients, for instance, that have built their own AI layer front door kind of solution, right, to guide to the right bucket, whatever you call it, right? But what I've witnessed is that the mindset of many people now is, oh, AI can do everything, right? So they come up actually by making the entire process more complex than instead making it more simple and more efficient, right? Because their mindset is, oh, AI can fix everything. So if I want to deviate a little bit here or deviate a little bit there, then yeah, AI will fix that problem, right? Well, we're not at that stage yet. So we're starting to see interesting conversations where we are saying, yeah, but the fact that your AI agent or whatever, your front door solution does this, makes it actually at the back end even more complex than you already are, right? So again, it still requires human people with knowledge to say, hold on a minute, well, this might sound logical, this might sound something that AI can fix. The reality is a bit more, we're not there yet. It might be in 6 or 12 months time, because the developments go that fast. But still, I wholeheartedly agree with Inês. Because we've seen some crazy stuff already happening.
Yeah,
and I think that in the loop will reduce over time, right? As we get comfortable with the performance of AI in that process.
Yeah.
I agree. I think, Inês and Manfred, I agree wholeheartedly. I think, what we're seeing now is, a lot of it's great for the data assessment, the gathering, the analytics, the reporting, the contract review. If you're looking for a clause in a contract that's 110 pages, you can find that now in about 4 seconds rather than 4 hours. So for things like that, but I think it's and I alluded to this at the start of the call, it's the context that perhaps AI and agents will have that in 6-12 months, and I'll be eating my words, but I think, sometimes it's that broader context that in the physical world that the agents, I don't think have or will have. And that's why I think, when I look at how we'll be working in 2-3 years' time, I think that the role, what we do won't change, but the how will change. Already we're all using tools today differently to how we're using a month ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, but the how. And I think that's that combined with the ethics, the compliance, the governance, the change management, the human upskilling, that there's more than just the shiny box that we're all excited by. There's so many other work streams that organizations need to embark on for it to be, wholly adoptable. So
Agreed.
Absolutely.
I think another point that I would make is going back to understanding the work, because Inês, you just talked about orchestration as an upfront thing, and I think that it's important to remember that what the manager requests isn't always what the business needs, and so actually the gap that exists there, and being able to kind of challenge that and understand, because the reality is, when you're dealing with an agentic solution, the information that it's working with is only as good as what it's provided with, right? And I think, if you have a fully automated solution, yes, you can get there quicker, you can do all of these kind of pieces, but is it just meaning that you make a faster mistake in terms of what you're trying to achieve? Or are you actually trying to understand what it is that the business needs and the right output? So I think it's important to have that lens as well, because that work demand is the thing that's changing really quickly. And if someone's using, a job spec or something like that they used 6 months ago, it's not valid anymore. So I think it's about really making sure that you understand that work before it enters that process.
And I think, we're seeing it's changing so much. So I think we've all mentioned this, what was happening 6 months ago isn't what's happening today, and it won't be what's happening in 6 months' time. So if you start to fully automate everything, what we're doing is changing. The services, our partners are providing from an MSP perspective will change. The technology will change. It will get better. It will enhance. How we consult will be different. So I think Manfred said it. We're not ready for a fully automated solution, because actually everybody is still trying to understand how does it work best. And I don't think there is one working model of how it works best, nor will we just have one working model. So I think that it could get there, and it could be sooner than we think, but we're absolutely not on the path just yet. And it does require humans to ensure that the AI is doing what it should be doing. And that's with all technology. It doesn't matter whether it's AI or something else. That's the part that a human plays to ensure that everything is being done as it should do, and we're getting that expected result. And I think we need to have that touch right now, especially with how everything is going and how the world is today. We need to have that human element.
Manfred had mentioned top of funnel, and clients are using some AI tools to sort of figure out which direction to go and what type of resource to pull in. And when you have one of those sort of systems, the humans are still intelligent. So if I want to get to SOW, even though it's a CW resource, I can answer the questions so the agent brings me to the SOW pathway, right? So they still need the human in the loop. But then something interesting I think you mentioned before to me was 2 years ago, there was probably 20% rogue spend in CW that went into SOW. Mm-hmm. And now it's grown to about 40%, right?
Correct.
So
correct.
Why is that? And then has these workflows at top of funnel sort of enabled that?
I think it's a couple of things, actually. I don't think it's just that. I think it's what we started off with, that We looked at controlling CW spend really well. We all did a fantastic job, pat on the back, but because of that, services procurement, the door slightly widened, for more to kind of funnel in that way. And that's why we're seeing a lot more, work being done in regards to services procurement, because now we know that there is misclassification there. We know that there are savings to be made. We know it's something that needs to be addressed. So I think that's one of the elements. I think also with the tools and the decision making, I think Manfred talked about triage. So triage is great when used well, but if it's something that can be gained, which we've talked about before, again, you're going to be able to get to the results that you want to get to. So again, it's things like that as well. So I think it's a combination of things, but this is why I think it's really important. And our clients are looking for, I want to see what's happening within the services procurement bucket. I'm not sure what's happening, but I want to see what's happening. And then from that, they're able to make some decisions about what it is that they want to do. But yeah, I think it's a couple of things that's kind of driven us to that statistic that we're seeing when we analyze SOWs.
Do you think we also did such a good job on MSPs defining rules for CW that people it's too tight now and that's why they're just moving into the other bucket?
I don't think we did, we made it too tight. I think that we just, it's been worked on for such a long time. At the end of the day, the policies, procedures, how it's work, how you request for a CW, we've just done such a good job on that category that services procurement, as I say, is not something that has been touched very much. It has been client-led. It has been client looked after. Yes, some people do a portion of services procurement. So I just think it's just the focus. That's all. Previously, it was just very much the focus with contingent. Services procurement will come at some point, at some time. Clients where we can do this. Now, I think the conversation is different.
And I think adding to that, I think buying behaviors have changed, not just in procurement and HR, but also in the hiring communities. I see clients more and more wanting to drive outcomes rather than putting a bum on a seat. And I think that's where the growth of SOW is coming from. Not only just because they want to guarantee the outcome that they want to achieve, but they're also removing some of that risk that they get in your traditional resource augmentation buying approach. So I think that's where the narrowing of CW is happening, and SOW and services procurement is widening. Is because a lot of organizations are moving to that outcome driven. Kat said it when we talked about workforce orchestration, that work demand. It's understanding what that work demand is, but what is it that we're actually trying to get done instead of just saying, hey, I need a bum on a seat.
And I think it's not just that, Inês. I think it's that plus I think the fact that organizations are now a bit more educated and aware of the risks of co-employment. So I think, if we go back to when IR35 first came into the UK, it was 7-8 years ago, it was kind of a foreign concept. And I think now companies are so astute and so onto that globally around that risk. So I think it's part cost, it's part outcomes, but also I think it's part risk mitigation and minimizing that co-employment risk also, which I think is also coming back to that, the role of then triage. And again, how can AI in the future help organizations orchestrate that and minimize risk?
And we still have a lot of education to do. And when I say we, all of us as industry leaders, right? Because I am sometimes amazed that, I want to create an SOW outcome based, but I still want to do the candidate selection on who's going to work on this SOW, right? Which is a complete mismatch. And if you start to explain what the risks are and what these clients are doing, then the penny drops. But we still have a long way to go. So there's a lot of education, which is good because it keeps us occupied as well. And now I cut off Jamie again. So that's
fine, Manfred. Don't worry.
Reoccurring thing.
I was just going to echo something Jackie's just said. Like the external changes in legislation have led to a diversification of services. There won't be an IT recruitment firm worth its salt that doesn't provide some form of statement of work or project-based services delivery these days. And same for consultancy. So actually, for the market itself, they are pushing services to our clients in terms of, outcome-based, milestone-based deliveries, let's say, deliverables, I should say. The challenge for contingent workforce solution providers like Magnit and others on this call is ensuring that clients have the right contingent workforce policies in place that are now broad enough to capture the broader contingent workforce, and then have the means to enable them make the right decisions on what's the right route to market, to buy in those services, whether that's a person or whether that's a consultancy firm delivering a project with milestones. But I do also have to say that a lot of the analysis that my team in strategic advisory at Magnit have done, actually, a lot of the times when we assess contracts, they don't always have the necessary deliverables and controls in place around those milestones. So there is a point to Manfred, to your point about education. It is a newer, far less mature part of contingent workforce, and there is a requirement on ourselves as contingent workforce providers, as well as clients, to better understand how to go about managing services procurement in a different way.
I think
okay.
I just one additional point. I think we also can't ignore the macroeconomic factors, right, that we have here. So I talked about the organizational structures that need to change to accommodate AI. I think there are organizational structures that act as almost like institutional barriers in terms of forcing spend into SOW. So as we're looking at the manager, he's run out of budget, or he's got budget but not in that pot, it's in this pot, so he has to spend it over here. Or there is a manager who has headcount restrictions but can still bring 50 people in under an SOW, but if it's a permanent or contingent labor, isn't able to do that. So I think all of those factors exist. And I think with the world that we live in right now, I think that there is pressure on organizations for cost containment that don't necessarily contain costs. And we talk about the spend ballooning in one other area, but because of the lack of visibility and control that is in the contingent workforce space, as Ronelle mentioned, is much easier for managers to want to do the right thing, but the institution that they're working within doesn't allow them to do the right thing.
So my next question is going to be around AI. If some of the things you guys mentioned was some tasks that took 5 days, now you get down to 25 minutes. And so clients are asking for more, faster, better, which does have a cost. Just because you're not spending 5 days on that task, you've now moved that task to technology, and you've had people build technology around that. So there's an investment. So how are you addressing that with clients? Because they're assuming that now you can do this for cheaper, but cheaper creates a lot of risks, right? And so you need to make sure that they realize that you're investing in technology and changing your processes, but it's not that you're saving costs necessarily, you're actually just delivering more, faster, better. So are you seeing that trend from clients, or how are you addressing that?
We're definitely seeing requests for faster processes. What I would say to that is, sounds a little bit high level, but the human mind makes billions of decisions every day, right? So, the human can't be taken ultimately out of the decision. We can process data far quicker to enable a human ultimately to make a decision or a recommendation, or to validate what has been presented, or to challenge and come up with alternatives. So I would challenge everyone really to think about not just speed, but think about quality of output and the outcome as well. Naturally, that varies by tasks. Some tasks are more mundane and admin and can be done exceptionally quickly. But we're talking here about hiring, and there is still human intuition and gut feel when you're making a decision about who is the right person for a role that we shouldn't forget.
Agree, and to add to that, Jamie, we step back from this and look at why does an organization, what do they need in a contingent workforce solution, whether it's from an MSP provider and or a VMS provider. They're wanting access to talent, they're wanting risk management, they're wanting compliance, they're wanting cost savings. All those things are not changing. So for me, it's the what of managing contingent workforce is not changing, but the how is. And I think, for me, the narrative to clients, and I'd say this to all of our listeners here, is that we are now investing in that infrastructure. But again, the what won't change, the how will change, and what that means that we can then do more, faster, better. We can kind of move into story pace, if you like. But I don't see that changing. Or we can't, I think, devalue the importance of what the solution is, and I think the importance of humans in that context too, around all of the elements we've discussed in this call today. So I think we need to, recognize the value and recognize also that the solution has not changed, but the how, and that would be my parting comment on that. I don't know what the team feel about that one.
I love you can't devalue the solution. That's amazing. Well said. We've also scaled fraud, candidate fraud in tech. So that's a pain point for me, and I'm sure it's a pain point for all of you guys. So how are we dealing with this at this point? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I certainly can go first. Yes, it is an increasing topic, and I think it reaches board level in multiple ways. From our perspective as a company, we have now a service and a technical solution that is called anti-impersonation, right? To make sure that the person that you've interviewed is the same person that is at your doorstep during onboarding, is the same person that executes the work, et cetera, et cetera. So through various stages, but it's still a challenge, right? Because it's kind of like with many of these AI-enabled things, you have better AI to create better persons that don't exist, and it becomes more. So it's kind of the one chasing the other, and the other making the other one smarter. So it is a topic of concern, right? Because if we can see how easy, and the World Championships are a great example. The minute the game yesterday ended, if you go on social media channels, you can see the most brilliant, funny, little movies with I don't know what, with it literally within minutes, right? So it is a growing problem, and we're attacking it. We have solutions available, and I'm sure the rest of the group as well. But it remains, due to the speed of what nowadays you can do, it remains something that is of concern. Absolutely.
And I think that feeds into earlier what we were talking about, AI governance, and what clients are asking for from us, is that these are the things that will come out with innovation. As the market moves, as we innovate, as we become creative, there will always be these sides to it, and they are the sides that we also need to tackle, with how do we keep things safe, how do we protect the data, how do we ensure it is the candidate. So that comes part and parcel with moving everything forward and innovating like we have to, because we can't stay still, but we have to then work on these things that come out of that. That is how we will move the industry forward. But it's these things will develop, and we just need to, as we do, we build products, services, tools around that as they come about.
For sure. This has been amazing. I can keep talking to you guys forever, but I think we have to cut it soon. So I want to end it with, what are you most optimistic about in terms of the contingent workforce for the second half of 2026 and into 2027? Jackie, you want to go first?
I'm going to say, whilst I'll stick to my word of let's not devalue the solution, I will also say I'm most excited about the role of agents and how they start to morph into our way of working.
Love it. Jamie?
I'd say that I'm most optimistic about our role actually elevating. So as we, we focus more on skills-based, AI augmented, move from filling requisitions to how do we help get work done. Like that, there is a real optimism I have about the future of contingent work in that space.
Love it. Inês?
Jamie stole mine. Thanks, Jamie. No, but I agree. It's that elevated conversation, the new conversations, helping clients solve for how do we solve for the future? How do we make sure our strategies help us remain competitive? Those are the conversations that are exciting. Combining that with the new technologies, the new solutions, the new AI stuff that's going to continuously develop. And those non-traditional MSP kind of models, not devaluing the solution, Jackie, but really kind of leaning into how do we change them to help our clients better?
For sure. Renelle?
It's the innovation, like we've all talked about. It's the innovation of what will come in 6 months and how it will change, and all of the exciting things that I've heard of or I'm hearing of. So I think that's what it's all about. And I think to both Jackie and Inês's point, we always cannot forget that at the end of the day, it's all about fulfilling the hiring manager's need. They just need something. And that's what we're all doing. So I'm excited to see what more innovation comes out of it.
For sure.
Kat, you want to go?
Yeah, I think I'm most excited about the opportunity that's in front of us to think differently. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
I can.
I can. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I think for me it's the opportunity to think differently. I think the recruitment industry has evolved over time, but not significantly. And I think there is a huge opportunity ahead of us right now to fundamentally change the approach, how we do things, how organizations think about work, and the operating models. And I'll talk about the infrastructure and all of that kind of stuff again. But I think for me, the way that organizations and businesses are set up is going to change. And I think that's very exciting to be part of.
I love that. And Manfred, bring it home.
I'll make it personal. What I'm most optimistic about is that 3 months ago, I really generally had this fear when somebody showed me to create a certain deck that would take me on normal days half an hour. He did it in 5 minutes. So I was worried it takes another year and then I'm out of a job. But this conversation that we had today gives me the confidence and be very optimistic that us all as industry leaders are still needed, not only for the next 6 months, but I would bet for the next 60 to 100 years. So I'm very optimistic about that.
Love it. Well, thank you all. This is amazing. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.